Good evening and welcome to Norwalk School District Board of Education regular meeting, Tuesday, February 14th, 2023, 6:30, our new time. Before we start, I just want to make a comment and move on to something else. We, as most are aware, that we went to the commissioners meeting, and I was really impressed, well, we all were, I think, that they say prayer before they start their meetings. We used to at one time. So I am starting off our meeting tonight, and if we can, I'm going to pray. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, please be with us, guide us all, knowing that our focus is all on our students, as well as our teachers, staff, our administration. We just want to do our best. Guide us and give us the words each and every meeting, and I just ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Crawford? Here. Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Norris?
Here.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Here.
Mrs. Wick?
Here. And for stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion for adoption of the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wick?
Yes. Special presentation.
Yes, I've talked a lot about Bryce Hellman, and here he is. He is a real person, and not just someone we see, read about in the emails, et cetera. So most of you are Norwalk people. You know Bryce. You probably had him as a student. So he is here as the professional now, not as a Norwalk High School student. And take it away, Bryce.
Thank you.
And his parents,
Yeah.
which is good to see them here.
That's my mom and dad. Yeah, I can understand how sometimes I appear as a fictitious character since I hail from the great city of Orlando, Florida. So I will be bringing you and delivering you warmer weather tomorrow, I promise. So
So we heard.
just as I'm flying out, unfortunately. But we've had a great visit here. It's been brief, as always. It's been an actually packed whirlwind. Last week, I arrived on Wednesday, and we've made a big impact here at the Ernst Hausmann Performing Arts Center. And so what I want to kind of show you is some of the impact that we've had and how far we've come in such a short amount of time and some of the next steps forward. So first, a little bit about me. I graduated from Norwalk in 2009. I got my start here in the EPAC and doing everything technical theater. I mostly did lighting, but also did a little bit of audio. And I was lucky enough to do 5 musicals. I took a leap year, and I was actually working for the IT staff here. And that was back when Dana Lund was still IT coordinator, and so Jenna's taken over since then. But so I was fortunate enough to work for a full year, full time for the district, and working even as a student during the summers. And so the whole technology of the citywide school system, and especially the theater, has always been very special to me. And I'm very fortunate now to be here and giving back in my professional way now. So in 2012, I graduated with a full bachelor's degree. The program itself lasted 23 months. So it's a 4-year degree compressed very quickly. And my focus has been in show production and touring. So anything technical theater related or audio, video, lighting, all that fun stuff, that is actually my degree. And I decided that touring wasn't something I was interested in. I didn't want to be sleeping on a bus, going and doing those road shows and things like that. So I quickly found my way into permanent installs. And so now what I've been up to over the last decade plus is mostly a lot of theme parks. There's also a few cruise ships up there. I did the Celebrity Edge, which was the first sister of the Edge series that came out a couple of years ago. My projects have taken me all over the world. I first started living in China, doing Qianlong Mission Kingdom. That was my first theme park. That was also my first project out of college. So there's no end like the deep end, just jumping straight in and kind of getting onto it, and delivered a lot of amazing projects there. That park also won what we call Themed Entertainment Association Award for some of the work that I did for technical excellence. I lived in Dubai for about 8 months, doing 3 theme parks at the same time, building Dubai Parks and Resorts. Most recently, my travels took me to Japan. I lived there for a few months, working on the world's largest XR attraction, which is extended reality. So it's a play and a little bit further than just VR or AR. So that also won a VR award, also in technical excellence. So I've done work for Universal and for Disney, and now this feels really good because this project here at the Renaissance Performing Arts Center is something that has been my project. And normally I'm part of a very large team, or I'm leading or heading up a very large team. And this one has actually just been my own personal thing, and it feels very good to be your personal technical consultant and being able to give back to the school system. Again, major shout out to my parents for helping me with the install, because I actually bit off a little bit more than I could chew, but we've been doing really good. And we only have a couple final touches to put over in the sound booth tonight before I fly out tomorrow. So
We're trying to extend that to Tim and see if we can pull that off still.
that's right.
Keep it for 3 more days at least.
That's right. So what I'm up to recently is I am the owner and the operator of Programmation, which is my own technical consultancy. So I still have my hand in all these theme park projects and all these things around the world, and have a lot of contacts. But now I'm a one-man show basically, and so it allows me to do these types of projects and make sure that I can stand here and be that consultant for the types of clients that need that help. Sometimes it's too expensive, or it's too much to go to a company, integration company that does this with a large team. And so I like to stand in that gap and be a small company that can do smaller projects, and to be a partner with the people that need it. So I want to focus on the use of the EPAC, and this is, again, as I said, what really brought me up here this week. And this project has not just been a week-long endeavor. This actually has started quite a while ago. I just happened to be in town in June last year, and that's kind of when the ball got rolling with the brief meeting with Mr. Cooley. And we did kind of an initial consultation, just saying, wow, I think that there's some needs here, just with audio system, video, and lighting. And wow, I can see how the musical has been kind of suffering over the last few years, and that's sort of been the talk of the town from what I gather. And so we did an initial consultation. I was fortunate enough to come back here for another week to do a thorough on-site needs analysis. And so my production coordinator and my wife and I were here for a week. We covered every square inch of both the LGI Art Gallery and the theater. She was even with me up in the catwalks and above the ceiling and everywhere else. So we went through with a fine-tooth comb and came out with quite an extensive list of needs, and seeing the age of this facility. When the facility was originally constructed in 2000, it opened in 2001, it was state-of-the-art at the time. But that was also during an age where cassette tapes were still a thing and CDs were brand new. And how times have changed, right? And so we're going to take a look at some of the old technology that we pulled out and how we've now leaped into a pure digital system next door. So procurement of this new plan went into effect in December, and with supply chain being what it is, and a lot of lead time issues, we pulled a lot of Christmas miracles. I guess we were all good children because Santa really delivered. And we were able to deliver all of this gear to try to pull off the musical just in time. That takes us to right now, the installation and training here in February. And we're just wrapping up the final loose ends tonight. And we also did some training with the students, and we're going to make the musical happen, and it's going to be a lot better than in years past. This is really exciting. Obviously, we just took the first milestone towards our big list of things that we need to get done, but we're already in great shape, right? And we're already off and running. So we're looking forward towards the next milestone after I get back home and take a nap. Then we're going to jump into some great things, right? So here's just a quick list of what this first milestone entailed. Basically, it was a combination of new wireless microphones for our actors for the musical, and a new digital mixing console, so that way we can control it, we can make them sound really good, and we're going to have a much better production quality as a whole. We have 24 channels of not just any wireless microphone system, but also the digital wireless, which is a future-proof way that's going to help make sure that we don't have those dropouts, sometimes noise hits and things like that. So every word can be heard, unlike years past where every other word was coming through and we get solos kind of messed up or something like that, right? So we also have 6 Broadway grade microphones, right? So we're not just using any gear. We're not using the most expensive either, I promise. We're trying to keep this budget in mind for sure. And that's why we're trying to maximize all of this. But we are trying to reach not just entry level, not just the cheapest. We want to make sure that we're giving our students the best foot forward because, like I said, I got my start in EPAC. And a lot of my friends that I graduated high school with are now out and performing artists. You know, they're performing all over the world, and it all starts here on the stage. So we actually do have Broadway grade equipment now to use, and that's a huge step in the right direction to give great learning foundation for our students. So jumping down, we have the new digital mixing console. I'll have some photos of that later so we see what we're looking at. And then we're also able to bring forward just a couple little extra bits and bobs that really tied it all together, like new LED desk lamps. So now the techs can actually read their scripts in the dark sound booth. That's actually really important. They were using flashlights before, so you know, a little bit of love goes a long way, right? And some new power distribution, so now we're not overloading circuits or anything crazy like that. So we were able to pack a lot in just to this first milestone. So first of all, here's what our sound booth looked like before we got started. I took this photo on Thursday morning, right when we rolled in. And so there's been some upgrades over the years. There's some sticky notes kind of reminding everyone what's going on and some tape and things like that holding it all together, right? So it was kind of a dinosaur. It took up a lot of space, and you can see that old tape deck in the back for recording and playback, though I'm not sure how much that was ever used, but there we have it. So out with the old, and here's a look from the mixing position. And I was both happy and sad to see it in the back of the truck heading on to storage for right now. This is a progress photo after we removed everything old out of our way. We still had a lot of cable to clean up and a lot of things going on here. So again, shout out to my dad here. We actually decided to take out the glass that was separating. It doesn't really make sense to put the audio engineer behind windows where they can't hear very well, right? This has always been a plague here. So, you know, we kind of looked at each other and we're like, it's not going to take much to pull this glass out. Let's go ahead and do that. And that was kind of a nice value added thing that we decided to do last minute. So cleaning up, we had a lot of boxes. And so we just started opening everything up and we just staged it, as we say. We just started laying it all out down the aisle just so that way we can easily take stock of everything we had. Shout out to my mom for helping me with unboxing everything. We had a ton of boxes, and shout out to the custodial staff for helping us clean up all of those empties as well. So my dad and I were starting to build all the wireless mic receivers and starting to rack them up. Here it is now. Still in progress here. We're still running some wires here and everything, but now that's quite a change, right? So believe it or not, this much smaller surface has about twice the capability as you used to have, and it's all digital. So we have way more processing capabilities to put on really high grade, even Broadway style and Broadway level shows. Plus you have 16 wireless microphone channels right now in use with 8 more planned to be added later. We've already purchased that. We just need to install it after we do some next logistics in the next milestone is what we're looking forward to. So not only that, a big challenge that has always happened over the past several little upgrades and fixes and things like that. There's been some other vendors that have come in over the last 20 years to address issues as they arise, but they just kind of come in a day and they fix it and they leave. And the students are like, I don't know what that does, and they're too afraid to touch anything, understandably so. And you know, it's also true that even the admin staff or that some of the teachers are like, we don't know what happened. They just came in and said it was better and they left. And so everyone that I talked to said training is going to be super important for whatever it is that we do, especially when we take a huge leap. So training is what we gave, and we actually gave 2 classes. We set up here on this stage on Saturday, and we gave a 6-hour lecture on the fundamentals of audio, all the way down to voltage through copper, and how to control sound, how to properly care for your equipment and for your microphones, and everything in between. Also, how to mix sounds and mix music and things like that, right? With the focus on our students for their upcoming musical, for their talent show, for any other sort of events and performances that happen in that space, right? So we totally went all out and set up a lot of equipment in here. And we actually had a performance that evening that was also lent us some extra equipment there, those two racks that I'm standing in front of. So we were able to really dive deep with the students here and really show them from the professional world all of these skills that are brand new to them. Right? So this has been unprecedented. We have never done a training this detailed or this deep with our students before. So, and I reminded them, I'm like, this has never happened. So you guys are very lucky at this day and age that you're getting this level of detail. And we generated a ton of interest, not just from our students, not just from our faculty and our teachers, but also from the community. The community got wind of what we were doing, and my phone has been blowing up ever since. We had at least 100 people that reached out to us saying, when are you guys doing this again, right? And so now all eyes are not just on our equipment and things like that, but on the specialty that rests here in the Wisconsin Performing Arts Center, and that the community that wants to be involved with the space. And they're totally curious with the education, the level of quality that we're putting together here. And our students are really blessed, and I keep reminding them that because they're getting a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Fortunately, it wasn't just our seniors that normally get their hands on the console. We had 12th grade all the way through 9th grade here on Saturday learning the dense theory. In addition to that, we also did a follow-up class where students got their hands on the new console. I actually brought what I call a band in a box, and they were able to mix a virtual band. Even though we didn't have any performers up there, they had individual control over every instrument, and they were able to practice real mixing skills on their new console, on their new hardware. And this was great because we didn't have just our high schoolers. We actually found 3 8th graders that are going to be up and coming next year that want to join the sound team. So in total, we had 8 students there that were totally engrossed in what we're doing and totally excited about not just musical, but everything sound related, right? So we are now setting up this lineage, if you will, this succession of students coming up from all the way from 8th grade, jumping into next year. And we want to keep that cycle going. And we want to focus on continuing education. And we're talking about, possibly setting this up again in 6 months or maybe 12 months from now. To come back and make sure that this stays fresh. And so we're constantly sewing into our students the technical skills that they need to put on a good show. And it's not just about the technical, it's also about how they can behave with their peers and how they can bolster a show so that way they're part of that one team and everyone wins. So there's a lot of education that goes a long way with this. So let's talk about the next steps, right? We did a lot of impact here in a very short amount of time. Just the training alone was a huge, time-intensive effort. In total, with this whole project, I estimate I've given about 300 hours for free to Norwalk City Schools, just in my time trying to prepare for the installation and trying to get quotes together and things like that. And hounding Joyce in her office, like, here's a new PO, we gotta get this through. And fortunately, we were able to make it all the way through in a very short amount of time, so that way we can hit this milestone. This is very, very exciting. But there's still some next steps that we have to address, right? And I'm not going to read all this. There's a lot of data here, but basically, there's 3 main key points that audio still has to use in. The loudspeakers that we have in there, they're pretty old and they're starting to show their age. The sonic quality is starting to fade, and that really makes it difficult to clearly hear every word that's spoken, especially for academic challenges that happen there, student presentations, things like that, and of course our big shows that happen there. The coverage of it is also not very good. When you have a single center cluster, it doesn't fill every seat evenly. Too many people constantly comment that they can't hear anything when they sit in the balcony. Unfortunately, it's the balcony seats that we give to our VIPs that pay more for the ticket. So that's not a great place to start, right? So we need to address that. And so one of the major goals is to replace the new speaker, upgrade the speakers, replace them. So that way we get perfect sound quality in every seat of the house, right? That's what I want to do as a sound engineer. I want to make sure it's going to sound good no matter what we do. The other thing I noticed while we were setting up for our training is we actually identified 2 of your stage monitor speakers. This is so that way that people on stage can hear themselves when they're singing, or they can hear the piano during musicals and they know their cues. 2 of our 3 speakers are actually broken, and the third one sounded a little bit rusty too. Those were original with the EPAC 20 years ago. That's a pretty great life for them, honestly, but we have some needs, and unfortunately, it does cost money, right? And so the last thing is we've identified several microphone ports throughout the stage that are commonly used for any event that we host, including academic challenges and things like that, that are starting to show their age as well. And so what we want to do is focus on our infrastructure, upgrading our cabling, things like that. So there's still some needs that we have, so we need to start building a plan to look forward into how we're going to take those next steps and achieve new milestones. In addition to our audio needs, we do have some critical lighting needs that are happening right now. We need to upgrade the architectural lighting to LED. So if you walk over to the theater right now, you can start to count how many lights are actually burnt out. Don't really want to draw attention to it, but it is a need. The challenge is replacing them is not only really difficult, it's also slightly dangerous. You actually have to wear a full folly rest harness because you do have to walk on the ceiling above and pull the light fixtures out from the rear. This is why it's not done very frequently. Every time it's evolved, it's changing. Last I heard, we actually pulled Dustin Brown in recently. He used to be the head of maintenance here for the schools. We're like, how did you even do this? And he said, you really have to walk on the ceiling. And so we're like, well, that's why no one has done it recently. Changing out to LED is not only an energy efficiency thing like we normally associated with it, but they also can last tens of thousands of hours, meaning that we no longer need to maintain them. There's obviously a cost with that, but as more of them keep burning out, this is going to be a more and more pressing issue. We also need to replace the control system for the architectural lighting. One thing that is a common complaint right now, especially with this new stage lights that we have, you'll see them flicker blue every now and then, or the house lights tend to flicker a lot. This was actually seen during the Christmas concerts just a few months ago. This is an effect for some of the wiring, the control wiring that we have, and for one of the architectural controllers. It's a PC that controls the level of the light. This was installed by a vendor almost not too long ago, and now it's starting to have some issues because it was the cheapest solution at the time. And so now we need to start looking at how can we fix this. It's a more critical issue other than just being annoying for some flickering lights. It can actually lead to premature wear of all of your equipment, including the power distribution system, which is a very expensive fix, especially because our dimmers have actually been discontinued by the manufacturer. So trying to get replacement parts is going to be very challenging. So we want to try to address that as soon as possible. Otherwise, we're going to be looking at a higher cost for maintenance on it. We also have some wish list items. You might notice that some of the kids on stage tend to look a little orange recently. That's because our on-stage lighting is LED, but all the face lighting is still incandescent, which is a much lower color temperature. It's almost a very warm amber or yellow. And so that tends to affect your skin tones. And so it's not too pleasing of a look right now. So our wish list items is to upgrade our face lighting to LED as well. So there's some things that we can do to try to combat that, and by only upgrading just a few of our face lighting fixtures as an intermediary milestone. And the last thing is a wish list item for some more special effect lighting to help accentuate some of our performances, like the talent show in May and the Surfing Musical, but also some of our external events. On Saturday evening, we had quite a sizable show in here, and it was really impressive to see the whole community come out. I don't know if we've actually packed the place out so much with an external events before, but that was really exciting to see that come back to life. It's been a few years since we've had an external event like that, and it really was the heyday here, when this place opened, because we were the cutting edge. We still are the largest theater in the area in northeastern Ohio for sure. So this place is also sought after by the community, and so we want to make sure that we have the technical needs for our students, for their education, their betterment, but also to support our community as well. So there's a few needs that we have, but I do want to highlight again the achievements that we've come so far. Just within a couple months, we got this installation together, and that's like breakneck speed for my line of work. We still have some goals in mind that we want to continue to support and enhance our student productions. We want to increase that community engagements with our high quality productions and the tools that we need for them. But we do have some challenges. Like I mentioned, we have these audio needs, we still have these lighting needs, and we do have funding needs for them as well. We've been able to accomplish all of this with all of this brand new gear and the training because we have a private donation. so we need to start searching for ways, to engage the community and ask for their donation, so that way we can start moving forward with these next milestones to meet our agreements. At this time, I welcome any comments or questions from the board.
Great.
I appreciate that you brought it down to our level. I've had discussions with him with other people, and he's not at this level he spoke today. So I'm like, and Dan was there too, and we're just kind of like, we kind of understand, but we just hear lighting and audio, like occasionally we know what you're talking about, but all the words that we're sharing between, zero clue. So, yes. And he talked about the orange, like, that's another level, what he sees that maybe the commoner doesn't see. It's like, that's his number one. Like, I can't stand that people look orange up on that stage, where you're like, that's kind of what I'm used to seeing. So you don't know what grade, where all the levels are. So
First off, thank you on behalf of the school board for this. You have a very impressive resume. So we should feel blessed to even having you here.
I think tops it off as a Norwalk grad,
Right.
and then you got to be like your whole high school career was Mr. Cooley's principal, and now he's the superintendent, and here you are giving back to the school.
and I appreciate the training because, like I said to you from day one, like, I want to produce more Bryce Helmut types. I want to bring where we have students that enjoy that, and you can see there are careers available to students.
That's right.
It's not a high school, I work and help because I enjoy the musical, giving concerts, like, that's a critical part, and you are showing to our people here that, yeah, there are plenty of career opportunities for you.
At first, I think some of the students found me to be a little bit boring. They're like, wow, there's a lot of theory. And then when I started saying, well, I travel a lot, and they're like, well, how many flights have you had? And I said, well, coming here on this trip was my 228th flight. And they said, wow, how do you travel so much? And I said, it's my job. And they're like, wait, so audio can take you around the world? They're like, how do you get into that? And I said, it started at the EPAC for me. I found my passion here, and I just spent so much time over here learning everything I could. And that took me, all the way back to here, basically. So I think that inspired quite a bit.
Where I think I can assist you, Bryce, is with finding the Allegiant flights, which are far cheaper, but they have like a 3-day cycle of where you want to land in Orlando and Cleveland, that we can pull this off more frequently for you to be with us. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Do you give a timeline, or not a timeline, I'm sorry, but all the things that you want to do or we need to do you have an idea how much that'll cost, so then we can kind of decide how we can help with that?
So there's kind of multi-phases to a project when you start talking about budget needs and what is feasible, right? Especially if you're donation based or if you're private interest money or what have you. When we do an initial needs analysis, we start taking things of, well, what is critical? We prioritize those things, but also if you could have anything, and if money were no object, and we start there, right? And so we do want to obviously aim super high because we do have a really beautiful facility. We're still beating Sandusky State here, yes. So we want to try to maintain that. And so, there's obviously a lot of wish list items, and obviously we can rack up the bill very quickly along with that. Okay. So when we start this exercise, we take very high budgetary numbers. So that way we're sure that the budget will get set high and we can fill it from there. An important note on that, I'm actually delivering this project $5,000 under budget. So that's the way I like to operate. So we like to start really high and make sure, we're under promising and over delivering. So we do have a fairly high number that we started with, but that contains a lot of wish list items and a lot of, 10-year future outlook type of things. We're talking about multiple 4K video cameras for video production, things like that. Those are not immediate needs, even within the next 3 years. Obviously, we want to start talking about being able to stream events to the web or things like that. If there's a presentation like National Honor Society, we want to stream it more professionally. That's a great immediate need that we can do for relatively low cost, right? So there's some priorities that we can shift around. There's obviously the Pink Floyd level light show that we can scale back on a little bit. And so there's ways that we can start bringing the cost into a more reasonable way. That's one way. The second way is we can start breaking down the big pie into slices. And in here I call them milestones, right? So we can start to say, what is our next priority? Obviously, the priority here was we had wireless mics that were an issue to deal with. They were using a frequency range that the FCC auctioned off a few years ago, and that's why they didn't work. There's also some challenges along with using those that we need to get out of them immediately. Right? There's conflicts with things like police radios and things like that. Right? That's a big deal. So we had some immediate critical needs that we needed to get done to try to meet our goal for musical. That's why we did milestone 1 with the donation we had. And we were able to stretch that money pretty far and get a lot of mileage for our dollar. And that's how I like to operate. I like to try to get you the biggest bang for your buck. We're not getting one big, massive, expensive thing. We're going to try to get nice things that are going to last. It is not the cheapest option that's going to break, but it'll stretch your dollar as far as we can, so that way we're maximizing that effectiveness. Being good stewards of donation money. I'm a big believer in that. So how we go from here? Well, let's take a look again at our wish list, pare it down into some closer realism figures, and then break it into milestones so that we know the next chunk is here's what we can make happen. Right? So if we receive, say, a grant of $50,000 or $100,000, then now we know, great, we have a chunk that's going to match that pretty well, and then we get that.
I know you said something about the electric, and it could affect something that would be more expensive,
That's
so
right.
that would probably be on our top of the list of things
That's
that we
right.
need to replace first.
Yes, exactly. So fortunately, because I've been here, I'm intimately familiar with the space because I used to run it as a student as the head lighting technician. But now that I've been back, recently and seen the upgrades, and now that I've had my hand in it, I still hold the master plan for here's where we want to get, here's everything I've done so far. So now I know we are now at step 1. Here's what step 2, 3, and 4 can look like over the next 4 years or something like that. And so long as we keep a hold of that vision and we keep moving forward, and I stay friends with Mr. Cooley basically, then we're going to keep it moving forward, right? And so we can keep those things moving on. So some of that's my homework. When I get back home from this trip, I'm going to start taking another look and another passes as to all of our needs and wish lists, understanding our critical items first, making that our immediate next step. And we can start to work around a budget with that. Just to keep everyone on the same page, great. Here's the number that we need to aim for to try to meet our critical next steps. That way we avoid a big disaster or
Right.
something to that effect. Excellent questions.
So I can see it
Great
with the
job,
next show.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very
everyone.
much. Once the newspapers are done writing about you, you're gonna have to hire some staff.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Public input, academic calendar. I'm not gonna read through all that, but, so the new calendar's out, as far as, and if there's any input, I need to hear from you. Pretty much.
So we have met with a calendar committee, as some of you know, and the buildings, everyone voiced their person that serves, so all the buildings have their rep on that. We actually, the majority, the bulk of people like this year's calendar, so we didn't sway too much afar from this year's calendar. One thing in our pre-board agenda meeting that was brought up was students are going to have, we have one student here that's going to have a long spring break next year. 2 students here, sorry. So we have the Great American Eclipse. Talking with our EMA local director was that schools were not going to be in session then. So we are continuing with some 2-hour delays that clearly are important with our professional development. So those are built into this calendar, and very much the April 8th, 2024. It's that critical time, almost elementary school end of day release time. So while it would be very good to be with our kids to experience that major solar eclipse with our students, I don't want to risk that, and no student or no school in this area will be in session on that day. So it'll be a long spring break. It's the Good Friday the week following, then that Monday will be off. So hopefully all those lessons and things that can be worked with our kids will be prior to that, and then we all can experience, because Norwalk, as you've heard, we're ground zero. So their potential is a lot of folks coming into from other countries, from south, from Florida, driving up to see what happens here, because we have the longest stretch of time will be in this critical Huron-Erie County split. So very excited for that day. And we joke, but we might not be joking. We might be making it as a fundraiser of, we don't have school, let's park camper. Let's take advantage of that. So we smile, but there could be some truth behind that reality. So so the calendar is in front of you. We are not looking for approval until the next board meeting here in March.
Do you want me to go on this public notice as well? Or do you want to just speak on behalf? The less I have to read, the better.
Okay,
That's what I'm saying. She's saying, do you want to read it?
So per Ohio Revised Code, we have 4 educators that are looking for retiree hire. So they were looking to be finished at the end of this school year and then looking to be rehired according to the requirements set forth. So this is public notice. This is a requirement we have to let you know. And then there will be a meeting 15 to 30 days in that window prior to the start of school. So we put generally August 2023 without a date. That meeting will be set because that's when that time frame has to occur. So that's the plan for those 4 educators as listed.
Thank you. Public participation. Each person who wishes to address the board will be asked to give his or her name and address. Remarks should be limited to 3 minutes in length. After everyone who wishes to do so has had an opportunity to speak, additional comments can be made up to a total allotted time of 30 minutes.
My name is Julie Wire. My address is 12212 Hoover Road, Island. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Norwalk, and I have a true passion for teaching reading. After extensive research of the curriculum that has been brought into us and reviewing the stuff that has been brought to our attention and requesting to visit schools that have experienced these different curriculums, it is my firm belief that we need to reconsider and stick with Super Kids. Our desire to keep Super Kids is based on the quality of the program. It is a research-based program that encompasses the 5 components of reading thoroughly. The structure of the program flows extremely well from one content area to the next and is very kid-friendly. Students can relate to the characters while learning the foundations of reading and writing, and all areas of content flow together fluidly so the students can easily make cross-curricular connections and make the learning authentic. Reading, writing, social studies, and science are all addressed according to the Ohio Content Standards. This program teaches the why of reading and writing. In my 18 years of teaching kindergarten literacy, I have never experienced such excitement and engagement in the classroom. My students are excited to read and write because Super Kids provides them with the tools to make learning exciting and effective. I am asking for the board to reconsider and to keep this program that we at Maplehurst, and I do speak for 8 out of 9 teachers in kindergarten, to keep this. We are passionate about it and we view it as the best chance of success for our students at Maplehurst. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Treasurer's report. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Amy.
Amy Kirschbaum, 4th grade at League Elementary. I live at 16 Townsend Avenue in Norwalk, Ohio. I was not planning to speak tonight, but I just feel like you should hear another side. I am also a reading teacher for 4th grade. I've taught reading my entire 28-year career, and this is not an attack on the Super Kids program or the teachers. We have amazing teachers at the kindergarten level. My mother was a kindergarten teacher in Norwalk for her career, and I just really feel strongly that we had a procedure in place. I was not a part of the reading committee, but I was a part of looking at the series. We had a procedure in place. We have a curriculum director. I feel like due diligence was done looking at what's best for the district. We've just spent about 6 years with a split program, a divide, with primary doing one program, intermediate grades doing another, and we're kind of paying for that now with that divide. And I feel strongly, as do many other teachers, I believe you received a letter earlier tonight from several league teachers, that we feel that there was a precedent put in place, or not, there would be a precedent put in place if we turn back now and turn back what the committee had decided in a democratic way. So that's my thoughts. I just wanted you to hear from both sides. Thank you.
Sorry, anyone else? Treasurer's report.
Okay, January 23 financial report. The big part for January school district income tax payment arrived. It was $37,374 more than last year's same quarter. So that's really good news. That was the October, November, December quarter. We also, casino revenue came in, and the amount there was $83,163.65, slightly above last January. It's a final payment for this fiscal year. Casino money arrives twice in August and January. We'll see where that goes. Going forward, like I said before, I feel like with the sports betting, we may not be seeing quite the same amount in casino revenues. And casino revenues were really good because they actually come directly to the school. It doesn't fall into the black hole at the state, into their pot. So it does come directly to us. So that was a good thing. So we'll see how that goes going forward. January is our 7th month of the fiscal year. We're around 58% on salaries and benefits in the general fund. Our federal grants will be expended soon, and then we moved those salary and benefits over to the general fund. So we're going to be wanting to watch those numbers. Salary and benefits make up about 85% of our district expenditures. So that's an important data point that we want to keep our eye on. And so last year we had an advance on our taxes in January. This year the advance didn't come until February. So when you look at the comparison of the two Januaries, January 22 to January 23, you see a difference on property tax. That's just because of the advance coming later. Once we get to February, we'll have all of it. Friday was the last day for tax bills to be paid. So we should be seeing our final numbers pretty soon for that. Now that we're at the 20 mil floor, it should, I'm kind of excited to see how it comes out. It should be better. There is a lot of new construction in the district. So that's always really good to see. So I'm pretty excited. The Client Street, which should be on because it wasn't on last year because it had to be completely finished by January 1st. So that should all be on there also. Our state auditors are finishing up. We're also finishing up a procurement audit with our food service. The ODE procurement audit for food service is every 3 years, while our regular audit is annually. It's a bit interesting. They both chose food service. So they're asking for a lot of the same documentation, which makes it a little bit easier. It'll be, there's 2 programs for the regular state audit, and this year they chose ESSER and the food service. So at least they kept one consistent, so we weren't digging up a lot of extra documentation. So that was helpful. Then we had 3 meetings to approve. We had our organizational meeting, our regular meeting, and our special meeting. Sent those minutes out. The Family Medical Leave Act, we have an employee off family medical leave for her estimated dates. Interim deposits for our CDs, we had a new one, Wells Fargo Bank. Interest rates are really going way up. It was 4.6, and it's not even that far out on the timeline. Actually, it's still a little bit odd because usually the farther you go out, the higher your rates are, but it hasn't quite happened that way yet, so we're not too far out. Of course, with the revised code, we can't go out any farther than 5 years anyhow. We're very limited on what we can invest in, but 4.6% was pretty exciting, especially when you go back and look at some of the other ones that are on there, like 0.01. So that's good to see. Approval for the school supplies, to do school supplies again with the ESSER money for the 23-24 school year. And also, as we talked about at the work session, approval to start the process to do the modular at Maplehurst so that we have room for our therapists to work with their kids so they're not working together out in the hallways. Since those are coming out of ESSER funds, that's what we needed for board approval for that. The modular building will actually be leasing, so we don't have to go through the formal bidding process because it won't be over the dollar amount. Then we have a high schools at work stipend. This is a state grant that we receive each year. The amount of the stipend on the administrative part is set by the grant, so since we have 2 people doing it, they have to split the amount. You can't just make up the amount that they receive, and that comes right out of the high schools at work grant. The donations, we had a Schleich grant, $2,450 to the book club here at the high school. $14,000 to the robotics team. Then the VFW post is donating $2,200 to buy leadership materials by Tony Lagando for fourth graders. I believe he's a football coach.
Educator, former, you're on, yes. Yep.
And it's all about leadership from his point of view for the fourth graders, so that's exciting. Then we had an anonymous donation of $65,000, and that is actually what funded Bryce's upgrades to our EPAC. That covered that, so that was pretty exciting. And that's all I have for you this month.
We have a motion for approval for treasurer's reports, items A1 through 7. Second? Second. Any discussion?
I just want to thank everybody for wanting to do the supplies again this year. I'm glad we could do it a little sooner and not so last minute. I'm hoping that the teachers can take advantage of knowing ahead of time so that you can, instead of having that one list for the whole grade, maybe you can tailor it to how you want your classroom to run and what supplies you want. So really excited that we're going to do that again.
Thank you.
And I'm glad we're starting earlier, so we'll make it much easier this year.
It's like for everybody that it's earlier.
And then, I mean, are they gonna know ahead of time too, what you have left over, so they kind of get an idea? Because I know, the one thing that sticks to my head is the Ziploc bags.
Yes, we still have glue sticks, Ziploc bags, Heidi's been in contact with the secretary,
Okay.
so they know what we still have left. And then some things we have had to reorder, just because as the year goes on, we need more supplies, but we do have a lot of Ziploc bags left. And the Clorox cleaner
Oh, the Clorox,
wipes and.
to use the
things like
Clorox wipes, things, okay.
Yeah.
Take them.
So,
So if you're low.
I'll take them.
yes, right, just talk to your secretary and she'll get with Heidi. 'cause
I
it's
do
all-
weekly.
Okay.
So we like to, because the glue sticks I hear like have a 3-year expiration date, so we need to move out on. Move on them.
Okay, Joyce, how much does that high school, that work cost us? Was it all grant?
It's grant funded, the grant I think is $5,000. It just covers, sometimes our high school teachers will go to other places and see what they've implemented in their high schools that work, programs. So we pay for the sub to cover the teacher that goes, and then they've done different supply things, and then.
It doesn't cost us anything, it's all through the
No.
grant, okay.
It's all professional development. That's what it's
Okay.
all solely based on. And a lot for the high school, because we've had it for some time, that's very much tied to the BLT. So the building leadership team, like, they are looking at planning for their staff, and it's tied to that.
Okay.
And that's also paying for subs, correct? For those teachers that leave and go for training, is paying for the subs during those opportunities.
Okay, thank you.
Roll call.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wade?
Yes. Personnel.
Yes, item for approval. We have resignations, so the aforementioned teachers, Mary Beth Dennison, Wesley Douglas, Kim Joy, Jana Peterson, they are going to be resigning due to retirement, effective May 31, 2023. So all four are in the same position. We actually have language, section Q, within our own contract that states how that process plays out. So those four will be resigning here at the end of May. Employment of Hannah Sutton as educational aide, step 3, she's under 120-day probationary contract. Employment of Elaine Toth, cook helper, also under a probationary contract. We have a listing there of our middle school staff. That'll be one who's a high school teacher that will be helping in the middle school, and Samantha Roberts, and then several, Dave Daniels well, police officer, Norwalk PD. Him and Beth Lesh and Joseph Sutton will complete the middle school track coaches. So that is that group for our middle school students. Number 6, we have employment of substitutes, both classified and certified, as listed. And then number 7, we have a classroom and a bus driver as volunteers. So that completes the personnel list.
Okay, motion for approval for personnel items A1 through 7.
So moved.
Second? Second. Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wade?
Yes. Superintendent's reports.
Yes, number 1, adoption of a new curriculum, grades K-5 reading series, Wonders 2023 by McGraw-Hill. Clearly a focus of our district has been on literacy, that has been our strong push. We've hired literacy coordinators, very strong individuals, both for Maplehurst and Pleasant. We look for that expansion to happen upwards. So that has been a primary focus. There has been a lot of work. There's been so much time put in by so many individuals in this district. So I thank you all. With all those things considered, we have to make a decision for what's best total for the district. So with that continuity, I am recommending that we proceed with Wonders 2023 for K through 5.
Motion for approval for item, under superintendent report, item 1.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion?
Yes. Whoever wants.
I would like to
All right.
say something. I spoke with Janice Smith and her team yesterday, and by the way, she's not here, but happy birthday, Janice. And I respect everything that they had to say, and it was a very influential meeting. I understand what they're talking about with the gaps between kindergarten, first and second grade. But I also respect the unanimous teachers from Maplehurst, from kindergarten and first grade, that say that this program, the Wonders, is not good for their students because of the environment that they're coming from of like the majority of the kids do not have a pre-K. And Jen, also you as well, I respect everything that you've done and the hard work. Just me personally, I understand what the kindergarten and first grade teachers are saying, and I can't give a yes on this unless kindergarten and first grade are separated from 2 through 5, just because I understand where they're coming from, and I'm a man of my word. I said that's what I was going to vote. And unlike some politicians here, I am a man of my word. Throw that in there. But that's where I'm at.
Well, I hope I'm not the politician, but,
No.
Whoa, okay, so, okay, if you don't mind. So, we had the agenda meeting, which is, Lisa and I were at, that's the first time we really learned of the curriculum change, and I told them then, and that I understand my place, which is, I'm elected by the community, I am not an educator. I could not, I don't have the skills you guys do to make this decision, but we are here with this decision. I am looking at this row right here, and there are people that have changed things for my own kids. So I'm trying not to get emotional. I know it is. I have a 16-year-old who's my oldest. I have a 6-year-old who's my youngest. I actually know the 2 that went through didn't have super kids, and my youngest 2 have. We have this thing at night where we go to the table and we talk about our day. And my second grader talks to my kindergartner about super kids. They literally talk about which super kid they're on. So I want to first stress that I cannot tell you how much I understand that enough. So I felt like really torn after our meeting, after hearing from everybody, hearing from the teachers on all sides. I also have a lot of respect for Mrs. King because my oldest is on an IEP for reading. And I felt those struggles. You had them in kindergarten. So I understand where you're coming from, where this is working. And I'm actually seeing in my own family that it works. My hesitancy right now is this. Super Kids, I took the time from when our meeting was until I got here, only has K through second grade. I think that is the biggest problem. I don't think anyone could sit here and say that Super Kids isn't wonderful and doesn't work. I don't think anyone can say that. I can personally say that that's not the case for my own kids. But I understand what thought process we're trying to do and what Brad has been doing this whole time he's been in place is trying to bring up the community together and get out of the buildings. Just everyone's kind of doing their own thing because then it doesn't always tie together. I feel a little wishy-washy. I've had one day I'm like, no, we have to wait. Then the next day I'm like, no, I understand.
It's a tough decision.
It is really tough. I talked to Mrs. King, who I feel is very neutral on top of our administration. And the one thing she said is she has so many years and she has never seen a curriculum director do as much as she just did to put this in place. And I think that says a lot. She's got 20 years here. So Jen, no matter what, you had a hard job right now. So no matter what, I thank you. I see the big picture of that, and I think if Super Kids had a K through 5, we would be having a completely different discussion right now, but they don't. And what I've decided to do is what I think I'm supposed to do, which is I'm going to trust in my administration and my team that is telling us that this is the best thing for our district. And that is not to take away from the feelings of Maplehurst, because let me tell you, I don't feel good about it. But what scares me is we have amazing teachers in every building, and right now there's a divide. And I want to see that stop, because we shouldn't have to decide which teachers to decide with right now. And that's how it feels. And I don't like that feeling, because I love all of you a lot. So, sorry, I'm very long-winded in everything I do. So anyway, I'm going to vote yes. And, but that is what I'm going to do. But it's because I'm hoping that it is the right thing to bring our teachers together.
I'd like to make a comment. First of all, it's not the board's responsibility to micromanage our administration and our leaders. And that's one reason why I support everybody. We have a top-notch team. We've got a top-notch curriculum person, got a top-notch superintendent, we got a top-notch 2 literacy people that we have seen help improve grades already. And from what I understand, and I'm not saying that the Maplehurst people were wrong. I mean, I live with the next elementary teacher. So I've had people, I've had her tripping in my ear all week too. But the thing is, from what I understand, is that the grades are dropping every year from kindergarten to first to second. I don't care where you are, they're dropping. And like I said to someone today, if I was coaching football and I was losing yardage on every play, what are you gonna do? You're gonna change it. In the same way with this, if we're losing something every year, I don't think we have a choice. We gotta look at something else. That's all. And I have a degree in curriculum, and I was always told that when you bring something like this to the table, the hardest thing is going to be change. You're going to get the most opposition from teachers in general. I don't care what grade it is. I've been through this when I taught with the math series, and there was a big controversy. And I understand what you're doing. But because we're losing every year, I feel that we got to look at some way to improve it. So that's how I feel.
Are we allowed to talk at this point or no?
I don't think we are, we're not going to start to slam this
Right,
like we did at the commissioners meeting. So I feel like you can talk. I want to say too, I want to say first too, to that comment, I don't think the Super Kids is broken. I don't think the break is between our schools. Our kids are coming in behind. You guys are getting kids more and more behind for cultural reasons. And it's not just our community, it's everywhere. How many parents are either single parent home or both working if they are home, and it's just the world is changing. I don't think there's anything wrong with Super Kids. I think actually I can tell you that I have seen that has helped my kids, and they've all been through your building with the different programs. But the problem is we can't stretch that program. So I hope that's my problem, is we can't.
It's unique to K-1. It's a different animal. We always said that. And kindergarten's an animal itself, and their own. And it's motivating. It's challenging. Our job is to make them want to read and bring them in. I've taught McGraw Hill before. This will be the 3rd time. We've been through this before. So I know what it's going to look like already. Yes, they've added things, but it's still the same type of. So I just know it's motivating to our children, and those kids that have trouble, we can get them into the program. Mr. Moore observed me last week. They were all engaged. And he commented, I said with him today, how engaged they were with what we were doing. So I just know, and I've taught for 32 years, and I know that this is the best one that I've ever done.
And Mrs. Underly, you know, in our discussions, and I've shared at our pre-board agenda meeting, like, I will always say from the day I had this job, that what does it come down to? It comes down to people. I mean, we're talking programming here because that's to assist the people. But a good teacher will make essentially any program work well. So we're looking at what's the program, what's the continuity that we do want? Because we know what our grand plan is here. We'd like to be in a building together across the street from Norwalk High School. We want that very much to happen. Quality teachers make anything happen. You can get a quality teacher the worst program because what will you do? What will you do? You will supplement where those gaps are. So
that's
that
what we've been doing with we have been supplementing OG, and we've been doing Haggerty, so we've added things that we've asked to do. And we feel like we're doing strong, but we haven't had a chance to see how well we could do. We've had the COVID, we've been off. So really, are the numbers really realistic? Because we haven't had that chance. We need another year to show the difference. You know, yes, it's dropped, but it's not just with the super kids, because we're doing very well with that program. So, and if we're teaching what we're supposed to, then there should be gaps because we're teaching what our kids have. We have the standards. We do what we're supposed to. So, you know, there is a big jump for each grade. Our first grade teacher would say, wow, what a great jump. You know, they don't feel they're quite ready, but that's not, and it's just the way it is. You know, and then say they go to second, it's going to be a bigger gap. So we just feel really strongly about it. We just feel it's about our kids. We know it is. And to give up something that's so special. It is so special. I just can't believe it. I think we could do a good job with that K1 thing and give a chance for us to see the numbers. Then if it doesn't, then we can always jump on McGraw Hill. But if we take McGraw Hill and spend all the money that it's going to take to do that program, it's expensive. Why buy something? We already have something so good. And we're all on board in our building. We love it. So I don't know. You never get a program that people love that much, right? Can't say that enough. I just can't say it enough. You know, I'm that passionate. We're so passionate. That's why I'm not a person that cause waves ever, but I'm so passionate about this. I mean, I am.
I do know that too. The people that are talking are not, I know.
Well, because I'm gonna wrap it up here.
Can I also say something, if I'm not online here? Please.
Because everybody knows when I'm in this position, I'm kind of laid back about it.
There's no question that we have good, passionate people, and you can see that sitting behind us here. And Julie Wire that spoke earlier, I was in her classroom for 2 hours. She invited me to come and see this, and there's no question in my mind that this is a good, solid educator that is passionate about what she does. And watching her with her kids and put stuff in place, I told this in front of the reading series committee, that within 10 minutes I could tell that's somebody that knows what they're doing and they're a good quality educator. Their jobs are incredibly tough. A lot of it is not in their control. And I would never for 1 second disregard the opinions of good quality educators or underplay the struggles that they have. With that being said, it's also very apparent from our district data and surveys that we've done of teachers. We did one in the fall where we asked every teacher, what is going to be your focus this year that you're going to collect data on? Because we're data and literacy driven this year. And across the board, K to 12, every subject area, not necessarily every single classroom, they were literacy related, reading comprehension, informational text, vocabulary, decoding, and also a lack of consistency, just as a district. Those are 2 major problems. We went through a very lengthy review process, and Wonders is not just some random program that we picked, and neither is Super Kids an awful, horrible program. However, in the research that I did, Wonders is rated higher by independent research places like EdReports. It's rated not only better than Super Kids, but also ReadyGen, which is the other program that we split with currently. Not only by them, but also in other states where both of these programs were present, and that was not easy to find because Super Kids is not widely used. They were rated higher. Wonders was rated higher in both of those cases. And not only that, but they have made significant upgrades to their program. I spoke with our rep from McGraw Hill, and I told him, I said, this is an extremely hard sell for my K-1 teachers. And even though this is his job to do this, he was emphatic, yes, it is research-based. It has been updated to the science of reading. And I would never recommend something to my district leadership team, to my boss, to you guys, that I wouldn't put my own kid in. And I would put my kid in Julie's classroom any day of the week with wonders, and I would say, he's gonna come out reading well at the end of it. Have kids come out of Julie's class and other classes with super kids reading well? Yes. But that does not diminish that across our district, and this goes to what Mr. Moore said, that our kids do struggle with literacy. And my fear is that if we keep doing the same things that we have been doing for the last 10 years, it's not going to be as effective as if we make this change. And again, some of these things, it's not the fault of the teachers. COVID was not the fault of the teachers at all. Some of the disruptions we've had, it's not their fault. But that doesn't mean we don't have to change our ways and do things differently, which is where this is coming from. And not only that, but my recommendation to, again, my district leadership team that met, and also to everybody here, this is based on what is going to give us as a whole district, not just any one building, and not at the recommendation or the objections of any one building, the best chance we have to improve the consistency of our instruction, our alignment, and most importantly, make our kids proficient readers. And I know that this is not a magic bullet. I've never promised that. It's not any kind of quick fix. And the success of this program, as any program, is going to be dependent on our teachers and how much our district supports this. And I said this last week, I said this during our literacy committee meeting, that we're not just going to throw this at our teachers, that this is something that's not only going to be provided to them with the confidence that it will work, but also with a commitment from the district, with the time, the resources, the support that they need, starting as soon as this is adopted. Our PD plan for the rest of the year will revolve on what do we need to do to hit the ground running in the fall to make this successful. And that's a commitment from me directly and our district leadership team and everybody that's going to support this. This was not an easy decision. I don't take it lightly when teachers don't agree with something, but at the same time in my role, I've got to make the hard decisions and stand behind them. And it's not an easy one, and it's not the unanimous one, but I believe it's the necessary one. And I will stand behind that 100%. So thank you. And as Mr. Cooley said, I think everybody gets.
Yeah, and then we're gonna wrap it up.
First of all, I'd like to commend the teachers that came tonight. You know, you guys are all great teachers. My wife's taught with most of you, I think. And I appreciate the job you did. I appreciate the concern you have for our students. Is this going to be a quick fix overnight? No. It's going to take a while to get these kids back up to snuff. You're not going to do it overnight. And I realize that. But I really think that with your efforts and the type of teachers we have, you're not going to say, well, I didn't get my way, so, I'm not going to try. I mean, I have more respect for you people than that. And I know that you'll do what's best and that you'll supplement things. And I just want to thank you for your concerns.
I was gonna save this quote for at the end of this meeting, but I think it's appropriate for me to say it now. It's from C.S. Lewis, which I really love a lot of his quotes. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. With that, roll call, please.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Norris?
Without the separation, no.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wick?
Yes. Item 2.
Number 2, 23-24, so next year's Norwalk High School Program of Studies. That was provided in the full context of it, and then you also had the highlights. So I will just briefly go through those graduation requirements. Class of 2026 will have a financial literacy piece, so that's a half credit built into their schedule. That's still being determined as to what class that's going to fit in. There's kind of different looks at that. That's not determined yet because that's a few years out, but that does need to take effect.
You said 2026?
2020 class of, graduate class of.
Yeah.
In English, basically a name change going broadcast media will replace multimedia journalism. And they've looked at the content in that course, so it's basically saying there's enough English content. It's an English class. It doesn't have to be simply an elective class. So that's going to count as an English class, not solely as an elective, like some of those media-based and or business classes do. So that will be English specific. That will be one that a kid goes through, will count as one of their English credits. We have an updated name change with math with the AP Calculus BC. We're replaced math 1151 Calculus 2. And then this is a very exciting one. If you talk to the high school math teachers, advanced quantitative reasoning, basically kids, and I'm talking to a math teacher here, those that have gone through the highest levels of math, now you're looking at the application, like, how do I use this math? Because sometimes, like, I'm not the math person, like, when will I ever use that? Like, beyond the checkbook, what else do I need for that? This is actually application, so we get people like Bryce and engineers and types that actually will use it in day-to-day careers. So very exciting. High school math department is very excited about that, and that's it. So not a lot of changes, but important ones.
So a motion for approval for number 2, under superintendent's report. Second,
Second.
any discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes,
Mr. Witzenholler?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes. Item 3,
Number 3, agreement with LCCC to provide College Credit Plus courses. Essentially, if our students are taking classes, that defines the relationship we have with those. So you've seen that with Bowling Green Firelands, that's a major play. North Central State, those are our largest 2. Some students actually do use Lorraine County Community College, so that just sets that in effect.
motion for approval for item 3. Second,
second,
any discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
yes,
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Witzenholler?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes. Item 4,
Last one here is membership to the Ohio High School Athletic Association for Norwalk High School and Norwalk Middle School, so continuing as a member school.
motion for approval for item 4.
So
Second? Second. Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Norris?
yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
yes,
Mr. Witzenholler?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes. Okay. Board items. Ohio School Board Association membership for 2023 school year. We need a motion.
so moved,
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? I mean, I pretty much said at our special meeting what I thought, so. If nobody has any other discussion, then we'll just go with roll call.
Mr. Moore?
yes,
Mr. Witzenholler?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
No. Okay, board discussion and comments. Evolving news.
okay, just a couple of things. First of all, there will be an open house at Ehovie on March 19th. The hours are 1 to 4. Both students and parents are invited to come up and see what's going on up there. The other thing is I am very pleased to announce that we had 72 students from Norwalk made the honor roll at Ehovie, which I think is really terrific. I also think that it's a indication of the teachers in Norwalk here that prepared them to go up there, because most of them go up there as juniors, and I think that was very, looking very fondly on our teachers too to get them prepared for that. That's about it.
Thank you. Anything on the legislative end?
We always
Or where are
smile.
we- where- where-
We always just smile at
Where
each
are they
other.
with SB1? Do you know?
Well,
Because that's the one that's the hot topic because it was last year. They changed the number now.
right, they
it's
brought it back
SB1.
up. That's one where they want to take the State Board of Education and put it in the governor's office and leave the State Board of
Right.
Education and the state superintendent with only teacher licensure and territory transfers, I believe. It hasn't moved. It's in the new legislative on the Senate side, but nothing has happened yet. I feel like it's in committee and they've been having hearings on it. So that's where it's at. They did have some testimony. A lot of it was more about the career tech part of it. How it is good to have the career tech focus, but they've lumped it together, the career tech focus with getting rid of the state board instead of kind of separating it out. But just to know what on my side about the legislative process, as you know, the state budget process is beginning for our next biennium, our 2-year state budget. The governor introduced his proposal 2 weeks ago, January 31st. It was the same time we had our special meeting. The governor went over his proposal, and he did have a lot of really good things to say, both about literacy, that he was going to support literacy. Also, he was going to support different things. Of course, his budget isn't what actually gets implemented. It becomes the legislatures come up with a budget and maybe incorporate some of that, and then they pass it and he signs off on it. So just what he said isn't always exactly what we'll see in it. He did propose continuing the fair school funding plan and fully implementing it instead of doing a phase-in. We've had the phase-in, which really doesn't actually mean that the plan is in effect. We were $1.5 million short the first year of it, and we're almost just under $1 million short this year. So without it really being phased in, it's really still just residual budgeting. It's not funding what they've decided that we need. So the state's in a good position financially to fund it, so I certainly hope that that happens, and we'll see as it starts working its way through the legislature. And hopefully they'll have it done early this year, since the governor's not new. We won't be waiting until June 30th before we know what's happening. So that's what I have legislatively.
Did you have anything to add? And then at this time, we're going to move into executive session. Yeah, we need a motion to move into executive. Thank you.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Retzenbaum?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes.
And we don't anticipate any action after.
Correct. No action after. And even, if you want me to text you the time we're done.
Hey, now.